Good afternoon and welcome to Friday. This is business as usual. I'm very, very excited about today's program. But before we get started, just a couple of pieces of information to set up. First of all, I'm Audrey. I run the Pittsburgh Tech Council and I'm joined with Jonathan Kirsting. He is our Vice President of Visibility and all things media. So he will be managing the questions that we have with our guests today, which we're pretty excited about. So first of all, about today's call, thank you to Huntington Bank. They've been just incredibly supportive for this journey since we started 9 weeks ago. Or is it 10 weeks ago, Jonathan?
I think it's 10, man. We're going on 10.
Weeks ago, every single day. So I am thrilled that we have our guest today who's joining us from Philadelphia, but I'm going to introduce him in a second. So thanks to Huntington Bank and all the work that they've done to make sure that the small businesses get the kind of support that they need now and as we go ahead. Programming note, just Monday, we're excited to be hosting Travis Williams, president of the Pittsburgh Pirates. He is going to be giving us a status report about America's favorite pastime and how it will impact Pittsburgh and all things baseball. On Tuesday, we're going to be joined by Mike Turzai, Speaker of the Pennsylvania House of Representatives. We are looking forward to the Pittsburgh region being moved into the green next week. We're crossing our fingers on that. And so we will be talking to the speaker about all things that are related to turning green and what that means for businesses and their families. We're also going to be joined next week by CNX CEO Nick DeLulis and Ken Broadbent, business manager, the Steam Fitters Local 449. The two of the founding leaders of an organization that's now called Pittsburgh Works. So we're very excited to hear from them. And we also have additional guests that are in the hopper. So stay tuned each and every day. We've muted your microphones. So we've done that so we don't hear any of your dogs or kids or anything distracting in the background. We want to make sure that we can hear our guests clearly. And we want the call to be interactive. So at the bottom of the screen, there's chat. You can type information and questions for our guests who I'll introduce. And this is not an opportunity to sell anything. So on that note, I am very excited to be joined by Chris Franklin, Chairman and CEO of Essential. And we're going to find out what Essential is because it's near and dear to the hearts of many of us here in Pittsburgh. So welcome, Chris.
Thank you, Audrey. Thank you for having me today.
No, it's awesome. It's great. Thank you. And you're calling in from Philly, even though you have Pebble Beach behind you. And, so
we can dream, right?
Dream, and we hope that you're safe and sound. So a couple of things. So Essential is not a name that's familiar yet to most people that are here in Western Pennsylvania, nor is Aqua America. So on the other hand, Peoples is our best known and one of our best known brands. So can you take a few minutes and tell us about the history of Aqua America and its footprint, and then maybe share the vision, talk about, Essential and how this is going to impact Western Pennsylvania and beyond.
Sure. First of all, thanks again for having me on the show. And it's really exciting to us to be part of a Pittsburgh company now. We're all one. And although I'm a born and bred Pennsylvania guy, I'm from the other side of the state, and so I'm a foreigner on one level, and maybe not so much as a Pennsylvania guy. But Aqua was started in the 134 years ago, to be exact. 1886 was when Aqua was started, right down in Delaware County, Pennsylvania, and over the years has grown. When I came to the company in 1992, the company was about $100 million market cap, to give you the sense of the size. Today, it's roughly $10 billion. Wow. So the company has grown immensely over that period of time. And in most cases, we are growing by buying water and wastewater utilities. And so we see ourselves as a solution to most of these suffering small water and wastewater utilities across the country. It's hard to imagine, but there are 50,000 water utilities in the country. I mean, think about the difference between electric utilities. There are maybe 36 of them now, and 50,000 water utilities. So we've been going around, we're buying them, we fix them up, and that's really our expertise. A few years ago, we started to think about what if we were to capitalize on our strengths, and how might we broaden the base of our company? And we said, we're really good at the regulated industry. Going to the public utility commissions. We're in 10 states today. We're dealing with public utility commissions, and we're good at regulation. And so we said, how do we stay with the business but expand? And we said, what else is an underground pipe company? We thought about natural gas. And we said, but we didn't really want to get into fracking or exploration. We really didn't want to have midstream pipelines that were running across the country. But we thought the gas utility and the water utility were very similar if you could be just the company that brings gas or water to people's homes. And so we started looking at companies. There's not that many of them out there that are pure gas, what they call local distribution companies, LDCs. But Peoples was fit the bill perfectly. And when it was in a great regulatory state, which is Pennsylvania. And so we began the discussions. And at first, I will tell you that investors said, water and gas, it's not such a, it's energy, right? Electric and gas, and water is separate. But as we explained that we're really pushing a natural product, water or gas, through a pipeline, and then through a meter, reading the meter, generating the bill, and doing the service around it. They're very, very similar with, a couple primary exceptions. Gas is combustible. If you don't do it properly, you can have problems. Water, we all ingest. If we don't treat the water properly, people get sick. And so there's risks associated with both utilities, but both utilities are similar in that they're both underground utilities. Once we told the story, the investor base really got it. We had a very, very, very successful equity offering and debt offering, and as we put these two companies together, and so we spent the bulk of the time last year thinking about what do we call this new entity, never having thought about a pandemic coming in 2020. And so when we came up with the name Essential Utilities last year to put Peoples and Aqua together, we thought, what a great name. We were surprised it wasn't taken already. And so here we are, and then now it becomes one of the most used words in 2020. So long story to get there, but I think it's a great name, and hopefully capitalizes on two other great names with Peoples and Aqua in Pennsylvania.
So just quickly, there's a question that, Jonathan, can you just ask that question?
Yeah, I like the question.
Right into mine.
Absolutely. So, does Essential, invest in water purification technologies, and how would a startup with some novel capabilities best introduce themselves to your company?
It's a good question. So we do invest in some basic technologies, and obviously we purify all of our own water. We have all of our own water plants across our 10-state footprint, and so we are engaged. We have a lot of scientists that work at the company and engineers. That's probably the primary core group of people who run the company. And so as we think about that, we'd be happy to introduce entrepreneurs to those of us in the company who could use the technology. And we're always trying new technology, and we have a very open group of scientists who love to hear new ideas and new technology. So happy to make that introduction.
Okay, so we'll take that as an action after this. Okay, Mark. So, we've hosted in the last 10 weeks, key leaders from critical components of the electrical and telecom infrastructure. They've discussed how their companies have adapted quickly to changes in demand and changes in locations of demand. So can you talk about how the pandemic is impacting your organization, and how have you adapted?
Yeah, it's such an important question. Earlier today, and I said we had to actually send the Peoples team home on March 16th, the same day we closed the transaction. And so if you had said to me, you need to send 1,000 of your employees to work from home, including your utility call centers, and you need to do it almost overnight, I would have told you just a few months ago that would be incredibly difficult for us, and maybe not even possible. But thanks to years of investment in technology, both in the Peoples company in Pittsburgh and also at the Aqua company based in Philly, we moved all those 1,000 people, about a third of our workforce, to work from home, almost overnight. And all those people have been operating now since March 16th at home, and we have not missed a beat. The technology has been stable using products like we're on today and others. It's worked really, really well. Now, in addition to that, we have 2/3 of our employees who still come to work every day, making sure that people get clean water every day, that their sewage is removed and processed, and that they have natural gas to heat their homes. Less of that this month, but earlier in the pandemic, that was important. And so all of those folks who continue to come to work, these are truly the essential employees. And I'm going to give a shout out because they've done a beautiful job in dealing with this, coming to work every day throughout this whole period of time. And now we put a lot of the social distancing measures in place, keeping one person to a vehicle. We've put all the cleaning protocols in place. We've done a really nice job. And I think all of the work that we do to take care of each other has paid off, because it's not just management that makes that happen. We've only had 5 sick people out of 3,000 during this whole pandemic. That's amazing for us to think about. And it's largely because people took it upon themselves to take care of each other using the guidance that we and state government and federal government provided. But people took care of themselves pretty nicely. I will also say one other thing. You know, when we businesses are closed, obviously they're not using water and they're not using gas. And so we have seen industrial consumption and commercial consumption come down dramatically. On the same side, residential consumption of water and gas, for that matter, has come up. And so we've seen some offsetting. So far, it's not been terrible for us. Now, it depends on how long we go and how many people are unemployed and whether they can pay their bills will be the next question.
Right. Okay. Well, I mean, at your core, now Essential is really a strong science and engineering company. I think you would agree with that.
Yes.
And we look across Western Pennsylvania, we're facing some severe challenges as it relates to removing wastewater runoff from our rivers, protecting our families from lead in our water supply, maintaining aging infrastructure, et cetera. So talk about any plans that you might have to help our regional leaders, to help our region, and ways that we should need to tackle this.
Yeah, it's a great question. And, we still hear the discussion about lead in the water. We still hear about this PFAS. I'm not sure you've heard of that, but it's been a lot written on PFAS, right? This is the 3M DuPont forever chemical, they call it. Right. And so these are key issues that need to be dealt with. And we made a pretty important announcement just about 2 months ago. And we said we were going to take our PFAS. First of all, we surveyed the entire company. I believe we're the only multi-state company to do this, but we surveyed our entire company. We said anywhere water comes into our system, we want to know if there's PFAS there. Mm-hmm. And the federal government has come out with a standard of 70 parts per trillion, and that's a health advisory level. It's not a what they call an MCL or a maximum contaminant level. A health advisory level is sort of an advisory. People have been pressing the EPA for more regulation of that chemical. We on our own came out and we said we're gonna treat anything at 13 parts per trillion. Remember, federal government's at 70. We said we were going to treat it 13. Very aggressive. And so we just don't think that you can play with people's health. And so we've gone across and we said everywhere across our 10-state footprint, we're gonna take it to 13 parts. Now that's technology, it's treatment, and it's activity by our operating team to make that happen. We're gonna do it fairly quickly. We've already begun that work, and so that's one example. Other examples, as I think across our footprint, Emlenton, which is not that far from Pittsburgh, it's maybe an hour. We bought Emlenton as an example of many of the systems we purchased. Very, very difficult situation. Pressure problems, treatment problems. Just they didn't make the investment that they had needed. We came in there and we turned it around very, very quickly by making the needed investment. And then we spread that investment cost over all customers. So people just don't feel the impact. It's the gradualization, right, of rates, so that we all take care of each other over a long period of time by spreading the cost of those fixed costs over everybody, the economies of scale. So, I mean, I think we can bring that to the city. Listen, when we first started talking to the gas company, everybody wanted to talk about the water utility in Pittsburgh, and we've offered our help there any number of times, and always happy to help to consult or whatever we can do. We're tied to the region now. I'm very happy to be tied to the region, and any help we can provide on the water side, we would be willing to do.
Well, there's actually a question from someone saying, from Seth Beckerman saying, will you make a play to take over the PWSA?
Well, in the municipal world, you can't really make a play, right? We can offer and we can have discussions, but ultimately the mayor, the authority board, and the executive director, that team of people, very capable people, will make decisions if they want to make any changes. But we have offered, we'll continue to offer. Listen, this is a great city. Pittsburgh's a great city. They deserve to have first-class water. And as a now hopefully we'll be with Peoples now another 100 years like we've been with Aqua, and it's in all of our interest to make sure that the water is as pure as possible. So
in reading your blog, our team came across a backhoe challenge. Does that sound right? As you know, listen, we love our
your research.
Yes.
We love our sports in Pittsburgh, even though we don't have basketball. When is this coming to Pennsylvania or wherever, and what is it?
Yeah, it sounds cool.
Well, think about this. We put about 200 miles of pipe in the ground every year. And so we use a lot of backhoe work, and a lot of our folks get very, very good at it. They say a good backhoe operator should be able to take a cigarette out of your mouth with the backhoe, right? I don't know if I'd be willing to stand up and be the example of that. But and we're gonna replace about 3,000 miles of gas main in and around Pittsburgh over the next, call it 15 years, 3,000 miles. So we're gonna have a lot of really good backhoe operators in Pittsburgh too. So maybe we need to have a Pittsburgh Philly competition there. But basically, they it's amazing to watch these guys operate. They have to pick up an egg with the backhoe without breaking the egg. They have to lay a balloon on or a ball on an object that is very small. It's amazing precision that these guys can pull off. And it'd be fun to do something that would be a Philly Pittsburgh challenge. That'd be neat.
Let's put the hashtag up.
There you go. Backhoe challenge.
Hashtag backhoe challenge. It's official. It's on. It's gonna go.
Yeah.
Love it, Jonathan. Count us in.
You're located in Philly, but and Philly and Pittsburgh, there's a lot in between, and we're very different kinds of cities. What is your hope for your presence here?
Yeah, so we're already one of the largest utilities in Pennsylvania, and so the hope would be that we could continue to be a solution, both for gas, water, and wastewater, for all three of them, in anywhere where municipals or small businesses are struggling. We're happy to come in, do the assessment. Interesting. A few years ago, a piece of legislation passed in Pennsylvania. They call it fair market value. And before that, when I would go to see a mayor and ask the mayor if he would be interested in selling his water system, often the mayor would say, "Well, what will you pay me for it?" And I could only pay the depreciated original cost of the pipe and the plant. Today, it's an appraised value. You have a professional engineering firm come in as a result of this legislation, and they do an appraisal, just like they would for a house. And then we can pay that appraised value, and so that the selling municipality, whether it's a city or a town, now has the ability to get their fair value out of a transaction like that. So it's been really a market moving legislation.
So we have a couple of questions, Jonathan. There's one from Bobby Greer.
This is a great one.
Then I have a couple of others.
Totally. So, I mean, Peoples has made such a big name for itself by giving so much back to the community. I mean, everyone looks towards Peoples and then just recognizing all the great work they've done over the years. Tell us how Essential is going to continue that and hopefully even amplify it more at this point, I bet, huh?
Yeah. So we made certain commitments right up front because we wanted not only our internal team, but also the community to know that we were committed to continuing to be a community leader. So we're going to continue to do that. We have a foundation. We'll take the dollars from both Aqua and Peoples, and they'll all be in a foundation called the Essential Foundation, and we'll continue to support everybody from Technology Council to fire and police to any other notable organization that needs our help. And we've done a lot even since the pandemic. Just in Pennsylvania alone, we've made hundreds of thousands of dollars in contributions to food banks because we know those folks are really hurting now. And we're going to continue to be that trusted player in the community, Jonathan, moving forward.
Very cool.
You have been. There's another question, Jonathan.
We go down here. Yeah. So do you hope to buy other gas companies?
Mm-hmm.
This is a great test case for you guys.
It's a good question, and it's a question we're asked fairly often. You think about our makeup today, we're about 70% water, 30% gas when we put Peoples together with Aqua. So 70-30. We like that mix. That's a pretty good mix. And here's the way I think about it. We have a great management team at Peoples. We talked about Ruth DeLoss Wiley and Joe Gregorini and the folks that run Peoples are really, really strong members of the management team. And so what we want to do, I think, is run the company for a while together, get it integrated, and then from there, let's think about what other opportunities are there in gas and water. In the meantime, we're going to continue to buy water utilities because we've sort of they're smaller generally, right? They're municipals that we're buying, and so they're easy to integrate quickly. But I don't think I wouldn't say in the near term we would buy another company as large as Peoples. I mean, Peoples was almost a $4.5 billion deal, very big transaction.
Massive.
So let's switch for a second and let's talk about electric vehicles.
Yeah.
And how natural gas can help the transition for transportation to cleaner fuel source from
Yeah, it's amazing. You know, a number of years ago, so many of us, particularly in Pennsylvania, where we have Marcellus, were converting our fleets to natural gas vehicles, and we had targets, and we were moving those to the targets. We also anticipated that the large car companies would begin to manufacture natural gas vehicles rather than have to retrofit those vehicles. And fortunately or unfortunately, depending on your perspective, when the price of gasoline dropped so dramatically, it took that differential between natural gas and gasoline away, and a lot of that work slowed. So we at Peoples and at Aqua, we still have a pretty good number of natural gas vehicles, and we've got natural gas fueling sites at the company. So we remain committed to that a greener approach. But I think until there's a differentiation between gasoline and natural gas, that process is probably slowed a little bit. And certainly, you know, you point out electric vehicles are really coming up. I mean, obviously, they are being manufactured in mass, and with leaders like Elon Musk and others. Those vehicles are now, you know, drive further and further. The batteries are allowing them to get further and further, which is really amazing to see from where they started.
So as we wrap up the show, what about some crystal balls? You're, as a leader, as a strategic thinker, as someone who's made a massive acquisition, what's your prediction for let's just say the next 6 months in terms of Pittsburgh, your role?
Yeah. Well, Audrey, probably the thing that comes to most people's minds when we talk about the next 6 months are what is the exit from this pandemic, and what has structurally changed in the economy and the way we do business. And I think those are important things to think about. And I think work from home, you know, video discussions, and you know, listen, I used to have to call an IT guy to do a video meeting. Now it's I do 10 of them a day, right? And so I think there will be some structural change in how we do business, and maybe in how we think about retail and other things. But in terms of Pittsburgh and our presence in Pittsburgh, listen, I hope to be spending a heck of a lot more time in Pittsburgh when things open up here. And I think you'll look to see Peoples remain to be as strong or even stronger at some point a player in the city in terms of our participation and our involvement in projects. I think you'll see, some of these, what they call CHP projects, that we see interesting projects like at the airport, where we're using the natural gas locally for power and to help the environment. And I think in the next 6 months, what you'll see is a dramatically ramped up capital program. We anticipate needing to hire about 100 people to ramp up. We're going to spend about $400 million a year in replacing pipe in the Pittsburgh region. And so you're going to see a lot of streets ripped up and hopefully brand new when we're done. Mm-hmm. But all in all, that's for safety and it's for the environment. Every time you take out a mile of pipe, the methane emissions from that old pipe should be completely gone, and nice new pipe in there. And that is a huge improvement to the environment. So I think those are maybe a little snapshot of what you'll see in the next few months.
And I think if I'm researched this correctly, you've been serving on the board of McGee. Is that correct?
McGee Hospital is, I'm a little partial, but it's one of the best rehabilitation hospitals in the country. So they specialize in spinal cord injuries, and you can't help but have your heart warm just by walking through there and seeing the work that gets done at a place like McGee. It's a terrific place.
So it's great. So we have your definitely both feet in Pittsburgh. Really appreciate that. We have one last question, Jonathan.
Yeah.
Cyber threats.
Absolutely. So we have here, thanks for coming to talk with us today. With the acquisition of gas and water utilities, serving and supporting daily life of large parts of the population, and the current growing trend of digitizing modern equipment and employee teleworking, has Essential Utilities prepared to meet the cyber threats within this infrastructure now? Yeah,
this is a big deal. As a matter of fact, on the board, I've elevated it to a board issue. So we hold 5 board meetings a year. At every board meeting, we have a report on cyber, because we think that, it should be at that level of attention. We've hired a terrific team, both at Aqua and there was an existing team at Peoples, really high level, well-trained senior people to deal with cybersecurity. I was at an event at one point where somebody from Cyber Command and federal government was speaking, and they said banks and utilities are often the number one target because it strikes at the fabric of the American society, the American life. And so our preparation and our work to repel that kind of attack is always at a high level. We spent a great deal of money not only on people but also on the technology to make sure that we can repel anything that people throw at us. So I really feel good about where we are, but you have to be ever vigilant. Yeah.
Listen, Chris, it has been a joy meeting you, talking to you, and just having this opportunity in the midst of all of this for you to be on our Zoom call. We are very bullish on Pittsburgh. As you know, Zoom has just said that they're going to have a presence in Pittsburgh right in the middle of this pandemic. We've had, a big exit. We've had a Series C investment. There are a lot of things that are very, very positive in the tech ecosystem. We look to you to be a great partner, and your team, they already are, the ones who are in Pittsburgh. And we deeply care about this relationship. And as you can see by the questions, people know that you have big shoes to fill and that you can fill it. And we look towards the future. And I want to thank you so much for just making sure that you are connected to Pittsburgh, because it's really strong here. And against all odds, we are going to thrive.
That's terrific. And Audrey, Jonathan, thanks for having me. I'll tell you, when I come through that over that bridge coming toward the People's Building at night, what a beautiful city Pittsburgh is. It's a great city. I look forward to being there more and more.
We look forward to seeing you here more and more, for sure.
Thank you.
So thank you, Chris Franklin from Essential. And everyone, Monday, we are going to be talking baseball with the president of the Pirates. Have a wonderful weekend, everyone. And stay connected to us. We're trying to stay connected to you. Have a great weekend.